Welcome back, Levelin Up Nation. It is Brigham Blackham, your success story strategist, and we have another amazing guest, Marla Coffin. She is one of my dear friends from the Final Percent Network. She's an infinity coach just like me, and she has a diverse background. I mean, I could totally just scroll through her years of experience in property management. She understands real estate. She understands speaking. She has literally managed thousands of doors, an amazing experience level, and you will not want to miss this episode. So glad you guys are tuning in. One of the things I want to make sure you get out of this episode is the importance of legacy. Speaking of legacy, we're going to talk about how this attaches to not just your family, not just your business, but the impact that you make in every choice. So Marla, welcome to the call. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's start here. Let's define the word legacy for you. What does legacy mean? How does this show up in your life? And then let's dive into your story.
Legacy really is about every contribution you choose to make, right? So it's every decision I've made to get me here and every decision I will make to get me there. And I think it's really important when we're thinking about, what's our end game? What are we trying to accomplish or achieve? That can be, through family goals and responsibilities. That can be through charitable contributions. That can be through our business endeavors, our personal life, all of those different factors all come in when we're considering what is that legacy really going to look like.
Beautiful. One of the things we talk about as well in the Final Percent Network is the infinity prism. And there is one specific color, the olive color, which it looks like you're wearing olive right now from my, I was like, oh, this is perfect. But that idea of making sure that we're focusing on legacy is something all of us at some point in our life will think about, even if it's not till the very end of our life. What are we going to be remembered by? How do people think of us? The legacy that we live is not just in the money we create or the things we leave behind. It's about the knowledge, the experiences, the love that we connect with people and how they feel by interacting with us. So when you are talking about your speaking career, I know you're a speaker that has a diverse background. I would love to hear what are some of the ways that you want to help people connect with you, and what do you want to be remembered by?
Ultimately, I think that from the perspective of starting with our end game, my husband and business partner Dale and I have always really worked on making decisions that get us closer to our end game, which is to give more than we get. That's the bottom line. And that can be in so many different facets. That can be monetarily, that can be through relationships. We all understand what it's like to try to maintain relationships. It can be tough when you're hustling, bustling, and doing everyday life, and you get distracted and tied up in these other ththings. And sometimes we forget to dig the well. Sometimes we forget to go back and do maintenance on our relationships, our friendships. So it really is a wide variety of things that, to me, it's also a gut check, right? It's not just, you talked about, this coming and this concept coming up at the end of your life. It's also all the way through your life. If I stopped right now and thought, okay, if today was my day, what would my legacy be? It's also going to help redirect where I'm trying to go and making sure that I'm on track, right? So, when I think about, these are the things happening in my life recently. Is this what I want to be remembered for? Is this the imprint I want to leave behind? And if the answer to that is no, then it's going to urge me to refocus what my goals are, what I really want to be spending my time on, which is so easy to diverge from in this busy world. So I think that that's actually something that can be brought up multiple times throughout one's life, even multiple times in a year, for a self check to say, is this where I am? Is this where I want to be? Is this, how I want to be remembered? Is this what I want to leave behind? Are these the things that are important to me? And sometimes the answer is absolutely. And sometimes the answer is maybe not. Maybe we need a little redirection.
I think anytime you're course correcting, that choice of saying, you know what, I'm not going in the direction I want. I need to re-engage where I am. There's an expression in Mandarin. I say it quite often. It's Shizhi Hali, Chaji Chenli. The difference of a hair can be 10,000 miles.
Yep.
It's if you don't constantly course correct,
that's right,
you will miss your target. So I think 100%. That's a huge value there. Making sure that is your legacy what you want to leave behind, actually showing up in your current life the way it is.
Right. That's right.
One of the ways that I'm often thinking about showing up because using the infinity model to have our personal life, business, or professional, how that ties to our vitality and how that ties back to our community. We are always talking about this because we're improving coaches. But I want to go how you assess what your legacy is. What are the ways that you say this is how this
Sorry, Brigham,
for me? Yes, go ahead.
sound isn't clear. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. How I'll simplify it.
Yeah.
How does legacy show up for you? What does that look like? And in the model of the infinity model, what does that look like for you?
Absolutely. So a couple different things. So first of all, I will go back to a time in 2022 when I was away with a group of friends, my husband and business partner, and we were really working through, who are you? Who do you want to be? Some of these things can be now, some of these things can be future targets. And I think all too often when we go through life and we're dealing with, business and personal and, our vitality community, all these different quadrants of the infinity model that we really rest ourselves on, I just find that things just get busy. They get chaotic, they get hectic. And a lot of the time, I think that it really comes down to finding a way to ensure we're bringing ourselves back to the things that matter most. So back in 2022, we were urged as a group to go through and really write down, who are you? And, Greg, leader of the Final Percent, he always says, you have to, be before you can do, before you can have. And that is so pivotal for me because for a long time I operated as an entrepreneur, as running multiple businesses, as a parent, under the premise or umbrella that you were just doing so you could have and eventually figure out who you were. But really putting that at the forefront has been absolutely pivotal in terms of figuring out who am I really, because that just ties into that legacy, that ties into what are my goals, what's my end game, what am I trying to leave behind, what does this look like. And so I would absolutely urge any entrepreneur, any speaker, anyone to take the time to really think and do some self-reflecting, because that's both necessary and often overlooked too. Do some self-reflecting on who am I really, right? Because you have to figure out who you will be before you can do and before then you can have.
That's so good. And Greg even goes a little bit deeper on that at times when he's saying you have to be plus do, and that
Yeah,
will equal have. And I think
absolutely.
that's a key distinction because when we are focusing on who we are becoming,
Yep.
and we're not just thinking on what am I doing, we're human beings, not human doings.
The
It's
truth.
that idea
Truth.
that every single choice will have an impact on how we show up and our legacy. So
Yep.
I know that you're a wonderful mother. You have these twins, which I don't have twins, but I have 4 kids and I just
It's really,
absolutely amazing mother.
thank you.
What are the things that you do in business that you want your kids to emulate, or the practices that you're like, wow, I really want to make sure that this is clear so that they can see how I responded to this? What are some of those stories or some of those principles that you hold dear that you want to pass on?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I learned at a very young age was the value and the necessity of work ethic. And that's something that has propelled me forward through the initiation of multiple different businesses, through some great times and through some hard times. And that work ethic was really instilled in me by my parents. I'll tell a quick little story. When I was 7, it was my birthday. We were having a little birthday party at my home, and my dad had the opportunity to go in on overtime. He worked at Ford Motor Company, and he actually, pulled my mom and I aside and said, "Hey, what do you think? I know it's the party today. Like, do you need me here? Do you want me here?" He was saying to me, I was 7 years old, like, "Hey, do you want me to stay at your birthday party, or do you want me to take this shift and work the extra hours?" And immediately I remember, like it was yesterday, being like, go take the shift. Absolutely. Like, see you later. We're good. And that really just embedded my understanding of a need that sometimes you just have to do the work. And of course, we all would love to get to a place where we have time freedom. And I think that, that's something that my husband and I have been very blessed with, is working hard to get ourselves to a point where we can achieve that time freedom. But there is a time when you just have to do the work. And so that's something that I definitely demonstrate and want to illustrate for my children. And honestly, for all of our young ones that are coming up, because sometimes you just have to do the work. And hopefully at some point you won't have to necessarily do the work, but there is a time when you do just have to do the work. So that's definitely something that has been pivotal to my success, my ability to get through the tough times, and my ability to work hard to build what we have. So that's something that I always try to demonstrate. Second thing that I would really highlight is we always say coffins do hard things. And that is something that actually came to us from a speaker that we heard, and someone we've befriended over time, Ryan Miller. He talked about that as well as his business partner. They, saying that at home, reiterating to your kids, we do hard things because things aren't always easy and things won't always come naturally and it won't always feel comfortable or it won't always feel easy, but we do have to do those hard things sometimes. And by the way, when we do those hard things, we won't always succeed through them. Sometimes we will face roadblocks. So being able to demonstrate that for our kids has been important. And we have that, slogan in our household. We've got a 5, almost 6-year-old girl. Berkeley, we say that all the time to her, coffins do hard things. And it does help her propel through some of those challenges, even at 5 years old. And frankly, I say it to myself sometimes when it's something I either don't want to do, or I know it's tough, or I know I might not succeed. I actually tell myself internally, coffins do hard things. And I think that that really can go a long way in demonstrating the important value for our kids and for the young people of today, frankly, and for that matter of tomorrow. And the third and final thing that I'll highlight, is really giving people, putting more out there than we are receiving. That's something that we just try to place a heavy emphasis on. And that can be in a variety of spectrums. That can be from just being kind and, being loving out in the community, building and contributing to your friend group, continuing to dig the well in relationships. That can be monetarily to charitable organizations. It can be across a wide range of spectrums, but having an understanding of that from a young age is really important so that that's embedded in our kids, no matter what they choose to do or how they choose to live or what they choose to do in their lives. I want those 3 things to be fundamental to them.
Beautiful. Work ethic is such an important thing. I feel like a lot of our kids nowadays, they don't see those examples. So I'm grateful that you are not only talking about that, but you live it, you embody it. One of the things that impressed me during last speech that I heard you give was the importance of making sure you not only identify the work, but you identify who is the best person to do that work. I think that's leveling up the mindset as well, because maybe you aren't the best person to get that work done.
Yeah.
And as you expand as a business owner, as a speaker, you could say, well, I know I can do this, but do I want to do it? And should I do this?
Yeah.
So how did you discover that? Would you mind share the, a few minute version of that story of how you kind of took yourself out of the minutia of the business and worked on the business?
I think it's just so important that we're always contemplating, whether we're in the business or not, from a day-to-day perspective, to understand that we need to have the right person in the right seat. And that can be, that can mean a couple different things. That can mean we need the right person in the sense of we need them to have the right dominant features for the skill set we need in that role. And that can also be, we need them to be at the right level. For a lot of years, when we worked in our business, which was for a long time, both my husband and I, we were doing a lot of things that, probably we weren't the right people to do those jobs, but we did it because it was always done that way. We did it because we were used to it. We did it because we knew how. We did it because we thought it was easiest rather than teaching someone else, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what we found was that, as we tried to propel ourselves forward, we were being, to a certain degree, weighted down by these tasks because these things were getting mixed up between, jobs that were closer to entry level to jobs that maybe we should be doing as we're trying to advance our business strategically. Those aren't necessarily the same. And at that point, I wasn't the right person in the right seat to be doing those responsibilities or taking care of those jobs, but I was, on account of the fact that, it was how it was always done and I knew how to do it quickly and easily and things like that. So I would really urge people to consider, is this the right person in the right seat? And that can be in the sense of, do they have the right dominant features for the roles and responsibilities of this particular position? And similarly, is this the right person in the right seat in the sense of, does this align with who should actually be doing this job or this task?
Beautiful. I love that. Dominant features, because all of us have different ways that we attack problems, or challenges. And
Certainly.
some of us are way more systems minded. It's not as much me. And some of us are really creative. Some of us are focusing on different elements and getting the right person in the right role. They'll be able to live in that genius zone.
Huge.
But if they don't have those dominant features, it's kind of like you can only focus so hard on the things that you suck at to get to a good level.
That's right.
Well, Hugh Zaretsky even brought this up on our Gamma retreat. He's like, you probably want to focus on the things that you're great at, that you can do better than anyone in the world, because you could get way better at those and people will notice. But if you focus on the really crappy things that you're just the worst at, you might get good at them, but nobody will know, because good is the enemy to great. So here's something I wanted to bring up as well. I know you have a lot of experience as a mother, as an entrepreneur, and as a speaker. What are some of the tips that you have to be able to be at work when you're at work and then say, you know what, I'm mom now? How do you keep that line?
Compartmentalizing can be hard, especially in today's world where, everybody's a phone call, a text, a direct message away. So, that can be tough. But some of the ways that I have found to be very beneficial for me is I just choose not to deal with email stuff after hours. And if I know that there's something, that's going to come in that might be controversial or might be upsetting to me, or, might get me feeling defensive or frustrated, I just choose to not. I'm not going to read it right now. I'm not, if I see that email come in and I do happen to check that email and I see, the name or the subject or, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is the time to slam on the brakes, because I know what I'm going to do to myself and my family if I make the choice to go through this right now. I can perceive what's coming. And I mean, sometimes you don't know what's coming or whatnot, but a lot of times you do, especially when you're deeply ingrained in your business. You have a good understanding of the trend of what you can expect in your business. And when you see that email from that person that you're worried you're going to lose that contract, or, you're worried somebody's going to be upset, or whatever the case may be, chances are you open that email. Now you're in a position where you're distracting yourself from your home life. You're emotionally changing your position, right? So you were in a place of joy. You were in a place of being with your children. You're in a place of, home. Maybe it's just responsibilities at home, whatever the case may be. And now you've chosen to divert your attention to something that you knew was probably going to be difficult or problematic. And then there you are. You're now in a position where maybe you're really frustrated, maybe you're upset, maybe you're angry, maybe you're feeling like you need to imminently respond. So now you're not just into reading an email, you're now into writing an email. Maybe it's something more lengthy. Now you're at your computer, you can't do it on your phone, and you can see how this can spiral. And especially if it is something that can be emotionally challenging, it can take over your whole night. And now the joy of being with your kids, the home responsibilities that we all share, et cetera, has literally been chewed away for that night or that time period. And we sometimes do that to ourselves. So I try really hard to guard myself. When I see something coming, it's like, okay, hold up, I'll deal with this tomorrow. And, I'm not perfect. So sometimes I don't. And sometimes I open those emails, or I take that phone call, or I look at that text. And now I have been hijacked, because sometimes it's really hard to unwind that, right? So, none of us are perfect, but we just need to continue working to be diligent to remember we're doing that for us. We're doing it for our kids. We're doing it for our partner. We're doing it for joy, because let's be honest, right? We all want to have some of that joy in our life that sometimes can be chewed up by after hours emergencies that aren't really emergencies, by people making things emergencies that, don't need to be. And frankly, we're all guilty of contributing to that too. So you need to look out for that.
Exactly. And lack of preparation on their part does not constitute an emergency on yours.
Totally.
So important.
But how often do we let it?
Oh my
right?
gosh. Way too often.
Yeah.
So I think that's sage advice. Just don't answer the emails. Don't answer those things that
don't read it.
Or read it. Yeah. Don't even read it. Yeah.
Don't get your brain going.
I like the idea. You even said the word do. Like, this is a crappy thing if you go and answer those outside of the right times.
Yeah. That sucks.
Compartmentalization is huge.
Yep.
One of the things that I think is something I want to make sure we add into this conversation is, when you are looking at leaving a legacy, there is one thing that you're like, well, here's the content or the things that I want to share, as far as like writing a book or sharing a story, some of those types of not quite as tangible things. And then
Yep.
there's also experiences that you have with people.
Sure.
Both of those are extremely valuable.
Yep.
How do you prioritize your legacy? What does that look like in your life?
So that's evolved and changed over the years. So we started our core business, MARDA Management, which is a residential property management company, 2010, and we ran that business until 2023. So for that time period, we worked very diligently. We were working, what I might call morning, noon, and night. Because my husband was my business partner, we were in it all the time. We were talking about it at breakfast, we were talking about it at dinner, we were talking about it on the weekends. It was always top of mind. We
Mhm.
were always finding a way to work through that. So that particular business was very much like running on the hamster wheel, like going to the next task, getting the next thing done. So I just really want to highlight like legacy can change and evolve, and your desires for what that looks like can change and evolve.
Mm.
Now that I'm in a position where I have more control over my time, I have more control over living a bit more of what I like to call the good life. Now I have the ability to decide that my highest and best use is at the growth arena, which is a business that specifically targets and works with individuals looking to evolve as leaders. And
Mm.
that is something that now I can control more effectively. You make choices, of course, every day, every hour, every minute, we all do. Sometimes they feel like a choice, sometimes it doesn't feel like as much of a choice, but they are choices. And
Yeah.
so that legacy needs to evolve with you as you evolve, as your circumstance evolves, as your life evolves, essentially. Because now I find myself in a place where I have more time freedom. I have more ability to go on trips. I have more ability to travel. I have more ability. And when I say ability, I mean time freedom. I mean financial freedom. I mean the desire, and we go through different periods in our life. I had twins just over a year ago, and we went through a period in our life when I was pregnant and, for 6 or so months after we had the babies where we weren't traveling. That was a choice we made based on our family circumstance. So that changes and evolves as time goes on. And I think it's really important that we understand that a legacy is attached to that. We are choosing who we're going to spend our time with, what types of things we're going to invest into our friend group, into our community, into ourselves professionally, through all quadrants of that infinity model when it comes to all of those different pillars.
Beautiful. One of the things that popped out to me is the importance of choice. Often we wait too long to make a choice, and then the choice gets made for us. And that's
Yep.
living life on default.
Yep.
But when you are intentional, you say, this is what I want. For your example, you said for the next 6 months, we're not traveling. That was a choice you made
Yep.
rather than, well, I don't know if we can travel. And you have so many more responsibilities now with kids. You're like, I guess we can't travel. And
Yep.
now external circumstances chose for you.
Right.
Very empowering to say, this is what we're going to do, and this is why we're going to do it. One of the things that I think is important with legacy is making sure that we're intentional with it. We're choosing the legacy we want to live, not
Yep.
just responding to what other people are doing. So when you look at maybe writing a book or writing a story or putting things down on paper,
Yep.
what are some of those things that are really top of mind for you? What's that dominant thought? That's something Greg always talks about. What's the dominant thought about legacy or about putting out into the world what you want to be remembered by?
My most dominant thought right now, based on where I'm at in my life, is that I'm confident that I have the ability to share really important information to other people who are trying to build their business from the perspective of the mistakes I made, the
Mm.
shortcuts I learned, and a number of different things that I was able to do both from startup, building all the way through the business, right through to stepping back from the day-to-day operations and being in a position where it's just an income producing asset. So being able to share that knowledge, share that information with people, whether that be through the written word, through the spoken word, through, a variety of different channels, has become very important to me and to my legacy, because I really feel as though that's something that I'm really meant to do. And I think that that really speaks to my highest and best use.
Mm. Highest and best use of time. I think that actually ties back into what we were talking about earlier with making sure that you have the right person in the right place. Highest and best use of time is so good. This is something you can talk about with your schedule on a personal basis. If you
Yeah.
are an individual, or if you have people in your organization, you're like, what's their best and highest use of their time?
Totally.
I know you have a handful of books that you've read, a handful of things that you've experienced in your life that are key to your success.
Yep.
What are some of the maybe suggestions? It could be a book, could be a class, could be something. What are some of the things that you're like, wow, that's a hack. That's something other people need to know about? Book, movie, whatever it is. What is one of those or a handful of those that you're like, you got to check these ones out? What's
Yeah,
your suggestion?
definitely. So a couple of thoughts. So first that I will say, and it's not necessarily a specific class, but everyone, in my opinion, who is endeavoring into the world of entrepreneurship or is already in it needs to learn how to speak publicly. You don't have to be a speaker. You don't have to want to stand on stage. You need to be able to speak effectively. And I say publicly, but I really mean with confidence. And not every person with a great idea is able to do that. So I would urge every single individual, if you are in or wanting to be in entrepreneurship in any way, that you do whatever you need to do, whether that's a class, whether that's just practice. Sometimes it's creating our own stages to be able to be more comfortable with audiences, with our subject matter, practicing about our topics. What are those things that we're talking about? And that could be such a wide variety from speaking, I could speak at, in front of the Infinity Club, or I could speak to my staff, at our office about different things that help them learn and develop, or even just addressing day-to-day operational things within our team. So really grappling with the need for that confidence in your speaking is absolutely key. So I would say first and foremost, that's probably my number one. Number two, I would definitely say a book that I read that had very heavy impact on me as a business owner and operator was The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Absolutely fantastic book. A lot of great key principles in there that have been very impactful for me. So I would definitely recommend that book. And certainly understanding the impact of your vitality on your ability to work in your business and in your personal life is important. It's something that I didn't understand for a long time. It wasn't something that I paid a lot of attention to. It was very much like we were grinding it out day in and day out, 12-hour days, like just eat when you can, and like exercise was funny. That was about it, but really understanding the imperative way that your vitality interweaves with those different pillars is so critical. And that could be on a small scale, it could be on a big scale. Some people, are very, very invested in physical activity, in health and nutrition. And some people, might just be about drinking enough water. It might be about walking up the street to that store for that errand instead of driving. It might be parking a little bit further away, from wherever you're going. It can be a wide spectrum of things, but understanding its importance has been really key.
Beautiful. Something I've experienced recently because we're part of the Final Percent Network was last year in June. Dale and I were at this. We were talking about how, man, we really want to make sure that our vitality is a priority.
Yep.
I went through a tactical transformation with Greg, and over 99 days, I took my weight down from 245 to now 207 this morning, but right around 40 pounds. You think about the lasting impact of taking that much weight off and then staying consistent with exercise. It's a huge value to your energy. And when we talk about vitality, it's not just like getting jacked. It's about actually making sure you have the mental wherewithal to be able to do all the things that are necessary, to play with your kids, to interact with people and enjoy life. If we don't have the energy, like, why are we doing it? It's so sad. So I love the impact that great vitality has. What have you noticed as far as focusing on your vitality recently? How that's impacting not just your professional life, but also your life as a mom?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I had twins just over a year ago. So certainly, that's a roller coaster ride that I didn't understand effectively beforehand at all. And I understand a lot better now. With that said, though, I've gone through a bit of a transformation just in terms of my commitment to myself, and a lot of times we get busy, things come up, everything else takes priority. And before you know it, poof, 3 months goes by and 6 months goes by and, all these things, right? So I've done a couple different things over the last few years that have dramatically changed my outlook on vitality. I did 75 hard a couple times. I've done Project 33 through the Final Percent Network. I've joined a gym, which is something that anyone who knows me would be surprised by. But I did that a couple years ago. And again, I found a place that fit and worked for me. It worked for my schedule, it worked for my availability. They have classes that I enjoy. So I have been able to incorporate those things in a way that doesn't just feel like, pure torture. And I've made those choices, right? I've decided for myself that that's important, increase my water intake, all of those different factors. I've even started actually very recently, just a few weeks ago, incorporating some intermittent fasting. My husband and business partner, Dale, has done intermittent fasting weekly for almost a year, 36-hour fast once a week. And he's done that for basically a year. So I've jumped on that bandwagon despite my skepticism. And it's been really interesting. I just finished my third fast yesterday, doing it once a week, 40 hours as well, or 36 hours. And it depends on the week. This week it was 40. Last week it was a little bit less than that. So depends, but definitely trying to get over that hump of a full day. And the mental reset that causes, very interesting, beyond just the physical implications. I can't believe how great I felt through this process, where I'm someone that normally would have been like, fasting, I don't even consider eating a salad a meal. So, like fasting is not a thing. Yeah. That's been a really interesting addition in the last 30 days or so.
That's beautiful. One of the other things that popped up while you were speaking,
Yeah.
Devin, he was one of my great friends, Devin Thou. He helped me really through this process.
Yeah.
He talked about not just making sure that you're getting enough exercise and eating well, but you're actually prioritizing sleep.
Yeah.
This was something that I was not doing very well last
Sure.
year. I felt like
Yeah.
I'm a very energetic person,
Sure.
but I felt like close to 5 or 6 o'clock, I would hit like this wall, and it was like, it was like
Yeah.
sludge. And it's like powering down. You've seen like
Right.
babies in that, which was like the energy just like
Exhausted. Yeah.
totally gone. But when you prioritize sleep and
Yeah.
then prioritize when you're waking up as well,
Yeah. So
you
fascinating.
jump out of bed. It's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
Even this morning, I was like, I don't really want to get out of bed, but I counted down from 5, and then I
Love
got out
it.
of bed at 5 still.
Thank you,
So,
Mel Robbins. Yeah.
oh yeah, I really like Mel Robbins. She's great.
Yeah.
That
Me
5-second
too.
rule is baller. It is so great.
Really good. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that whenever you prioritize something and you say, I'm not just interested in this, but I'm committed to this.
That's right.
It's changing something from a need or a should, that's kind of
Yep.
that shame word, to I must. And it's
That's
not
right.
because
And I
somebody else
will.
told it. Say, I will, I
That's right.
must.
Yeah.
That's huge in your vocabulary. And I say, I must wake up at 5 because I feel better when I do that.
That's right.
I have a better start to my day.
Yeah.
And I love that. So what
And
are some of
it's a lot of factors that can influence your sleep too that I think, aren't always considered or contemplated, right? So it's a good
these
sleep
things?
if it's going to sleep, but it's your screen.
Yeah.
It's, are you drinking before bed? I stopped drinking and eating at, say 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, just so that I wasn't eating and drinking up until I went to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11, whatever time. And then I'm up all night because I don't, feel like crap. I'm going to the bathroom, whatever these things are, is just disruptive to your sleep patterns, right? So it's all of those things that you don't necessarily contemplate are impactful, but they really are.
Yeah. I think living a legacy comes down to looking at all different elements of our life. We're talking about vitality right now, but one of the other elements that I want to tap on is who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
Our community. This is the thing that supercharges everything. If
Huge.
you are around people that are constantly vampires to your energy, you could have all the right food, all the right environment as far as like making sure that you're exercising, but you will be drained of energy because being around the wrong people, they're like an empty sponge and they just suck that energy right out of you.
Absolutely.
So what have you done to be able to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, the people that energize you, that are looking to level up their life, to build with you, not just build off of you or try and take from you?
Yeah. It's really all about choices, and, recognizing through some of the iterations of our business and its evolution have been that the people that got you here won't get you there. And I mean
Mm,
that in the sense that, when you're at, a level where you're starting a business because it's a side job, because you fell into it, and you have people that are working with you and helping you, and they're wonderful, and they're there for you for that season, doesn't necessarily mean that they are the person that you need when you have six businesses vertically integrated, you're running a leadership coaching program, etc. And so you have to be prepared to evolve, and similarly recognize who those people are that are forever people, because we all have our forever people, right?
yeah.
But also understanding that we all need to level up our own community. We all need to level up the people that are around us, the people that we're choosing to spend our time with. And those are choices. Those are choices.
Beautiful. I think that's a really key thing. One of the expressions that popped into my head when you're thinking of who you're surrounding yourself with is people can either be there for a season or a reason.
Aha.
They may not be there forever. And I think that's
Yep.
a key distinction.
Yep.
And
Yep.
finding the people that make you want to be the very best version of yourself and make
Yep.
it easy to be that best version. If you're around people that are
Yeah.
always offering you the donut or
Yeah.
always making it really difficult to work out, I'm not saying cut them completely out of your life, but I'm
You
saying
just have to make choices. You
make
just
the
have to make choices.
choice.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, Marla, this has been a wonderful conversation. Was
Thank
there
you.
anything that I didn't ask you that you're like, I wanted to share this? I had a story or I had this idea. Is there something that
No, the only thing I would love to share is just that every single person out there, every single person has the ability to be their best self. And if you don't feel like you're being your best self, then you need to take the time to absorb exactly what those things are, who you really want or are trying to be, and then figure out the moves you need to make to get there and get going. Because we all have the ability to do that, but sometimes we let our busy lives overwhelm us and take precedent and priority to what's important. But what's really important is who you really are, so you can decide what you're going to do. And that in turn will evolve into what you have. So I really encourage anyone listening to take the time. It's important, and it can really be life changing.
absolutely precedent and priority? That is great. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Guys,
having me.
this has been, oh, it's my pleasure to have you on anytime, anytime.
Thank you.
One of the things that my wife has shared with me over and over is don't just go through life, grow through
Oh,
life.
yes.
And that's a key
Love it.
element to what we are doing. We have this holistic approach to growth and personal development with the Final Percent Network. If you haven't downloaded the app by now,
Check it
guys,
out.
check it out.
100%. Check it
We
out.
got like 100 days of free content. So there's
Awesome.
literally no excuse. It costs you nothing, but it can change your life. And about leveling up, this is something that is a choice, like what Marla was saying. It's not something that just happens to us. We choose to level up. We choose to be our best self. We choose to live in that genius zone. There are
Absolutely.
lots of times where things don't quite match up with your legacy. And if that's the
Yep.
case, shift. You'll be glad you did. So I give you permission. I'm sure Marla gives you permission. Just go be your very best.
Do
We
it.
encourage you. And Marla, where can people find you online to make sure that they're
Absolutely. You can follow me at Marla Coffin, or you can certainly check out my website, marlacoffin.com or thegrowtharena.com. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send me a DM.
excellent. Well, thank you so much for the
Thanks,
time.
Brigham.
I
Appreciate
just
you.
love you so much. I love you more.
Thank
And
you.
I
Thank you. Thank you. You got me.
appreciate you so much. We will continue this wonderful journey. And guys, have a great rest of your day. Like and subscribe and go out there and be the very best version of yourself today. See ya. God. There we go.